Hello, everybody. This is Carly, CEO of Driving Instructors Association, with one of our updates, video updates during this COVID-19 crisis that we're all suffering from at this moment in time. Today, I'm just going to do a very, very quick, so keep up, walkthrough of some of the main queries and questions we've been having through our help desk. What I would say is we are answering a huge amount of questions at the moment, and so we're publishing lots of information in response to that. So if you have not been receiving our emails, then you need to check your spam filter on your email settings, because it may be that we're just going into your spam. Or if you could email membership@driving.org and just do a little check that we've got your email address on there as well, because some people are saying they're not receiving anything from us at the moment. We've actually been sending stuff out mainly, on a daily basis with lots of helpful advice. So I don't want anybody to miss out on that. What I'm not going to cover in today's video is stuff to do with ADI licensing, theory tests, that kind of thing. We sent out some FAQs produced by DVSA in response to our questions last Friday evening. Check through those, because there's a lot of answers there, and they are the answers that remain to those particular queries. There's quite a lot of stuff under review, so DVSA may change their mind on certain things, but at the moment, those answers are the current responses to those particular queries. If for any reason those FAQs don't answer your concerns or questions, please continue to email us. We now have a weekly teleconference with DVSA and other stakeholders. That's our opportunity to take your concerns back to them, as well as getting a download from them about what they're doing to tackle the issues generated by this crisis. Today, I'm mainly going to concentrate on some of those concerns around finances, your business finances, and your personal finances. Try and give you a little bit of a nudge in the right direction to some solutions and some support. I'm also going to briefly touch on key worker training as well, and whether we should be doing any kind of driver training or rider training at this time at all, because I know that is a very controversial subject. So let's get straight into it. Financial, I'm going to deal with business first. If you are a franchisee at this moment in time, I am probably teaching you to suck eggs if you've already done this. However, if you haven't, you need to be speaking to your franchise right now. The big onus right now is, as well as searching for alternative sources of income, i.e. a part-time job, or some level of grant or assistance or benefit to get some money back into your bank account, you've also got to look at reducing any financial outgoings that you've got that are quite significant. So if you can reduce your franchise fees in any way, obviously that will be a big help when they amount to £200, £300, £400 a month. I know there are some franchises that have already offered help to their ADIs, including AA and LDC, who are doing things like freezing a franchise fee for the month or allowing deferred payments later on. If your franchise has not offered that to you, speak to them. And if you're having problems talking to them and you want us to mediate or intervene in any way, we're very happy to have those conversations to help you out there. Any loans, leases, rent or rate, anything that is a big outgoing from your business rather than your personal life. If you have premises, for example, if you have a car loan, obviously that's a massive outgoing each month. It's worth talking to those organisations as well about whether they can give you payment holidays as well. Some have just automatically done that. Some have done it, but there is a fee, a fee for you to defer. I know it's ironic, you pay money to get your money deferred. However, they've got their kind of liabilities as well. They're still paying out for your car, even if you're not. So you need to contact each one of those individually and see what they can do for you. Again, if you're having real problems getting hold of them, or they're not willing to do something for you, the more of you that come to us and tell us about those issues, the more grist to our mill to go and try and mediate some solutions with those organisations. One of the biggest pieces of advice people are looking for from us at this moment in time is advice on the self-employed support scheme, the grant that government announced a couple of weeks ago now to help those of you who are self-employed, which is most of our industry, let's face it. The rules on that one are going to be that you have to have at least 1 year's tax return, so you must have done your January 2020 tax return. If you haven't done that for some reason, you have got some leeway now, but it is only to the 23rd of April. You can do your tax return that you missed in January, the one for 2018, 2019, because I know it's confusing what year it is when it's called your January 2020 return. You've got to bang that in by the 23rd of April. Otherwise, you won't be eligible to the scheme at all. We are having queries about that. Our DIA tax service is offering a fixed price tax return solution, which will get that done in the next couple of weeks. So get in touch with us if you need some support about that as well. If you're a limited company, even that's really a service for sole traders, we can help you as well if you haven't got your own accountant at this time. So get in touch with us if you need some help. A lot of the information about the self-employed support scheme already exists on the government website that's been specifically set up to deal with helping small businesses at this time. www.businesssupport.gov.uk. You'll find information about any loans and grants that are available. Some are being distributed at a local authority level, some at a national level, how to apply for any other assistance there is out there. The big thing to remember with this self-employment support scheme, HMRC will contact you. You do not need to do anything at this moment in time. In fact, if you get on the phone to HMRC to ask about it, what you're doing is actually putting an extra burden on an already overwrought system. So just sit and wait. I'm sorry, it's not the advice you want to hear, but you're going to have to wait for them to contact you if you're eligible. Now, what will happen with that, if you are eligible, is you should receive a payment at the start of June that is backdated to March. So 3 months of that grant should be sent to you then. And it will be calculated on your 1 year's tax return or an average of your 3 years tax returns if you've been filing those regularly as well. So all details of that, as I said, are on that particular website. Some other help that they've been given as well with things like deferring the July 2020 tax return. You don't now have to do that till January 2021. And any other assistance that government is giving to small businesses at this time, again, go and check that website. It's got some really clear and useful information about that on there as well. And I think it's worth looking at people like Money Saving Expert, Martin Lewis's website. They've been disseminating lots of information and making it very clear to people what you can and you can't get and whether it's worth applying for. Personal finances, we are encouraging people to apply for universal credit. We have had those emails from people who say it's an absolute pittance, it's not worth bothering applying for. I think for a lot of people, £497 per month at this moment in time is, to paraphrase the famous supermarket slogan, every little helps. So we are pointing people to that because you're not going to get this self-employed support scheme grant paid to you till June. So if you can bridge the gap with some assistance till then that is helpful for a lot of people. I do believe that they are trying to get people to try, who are self-employed, who are applying to this scheme because of the rules have been relaxed, to try and apply by the 10th of April. So I would suggest you take that pain right now of getting on the phone or doing the application process. It is a pain. Obviously, this is an unprecedented crisis, so all of the benefit systems and all of the advice lines and all of the stuff that you have to go through to get to these benefits, it takes a long time. You're going to find yourself in a queue for a very long time. But ADIs are getting through and they are starting to be told they're eligible and they should shortly receive this payment into their bank account. We've also had some questions about how does this, if I get universal credit, does that impact my other benefits? That is a question that we're pointing you to other advisory services who are more expert than us about. Will that payment have to be paid back if I receive the self-employment support scheme grant? We don't know for sure, and we imagine that to be the case. What normally happens with universal credit is if you do suddenly start earning through a part-time job or you're receiving some other income from somewhere whilst you've been claiming it, your payment adjusts depending on how much you are earning from this other source, or it ceases altogether, and in some cases you're asked to pay that amount back from the time you started earning other income. But even then, it is a stage payment. It's not expected that you pay it all back straight away. I believe you can repay universal credit payments that you've had over a period of 4 months in larger payments or a period of 12 months. But again, we're not the experts in terms of benefits. I'll give you some links to people who are in a moment that you can call. Just like your business, cutting down on personal financial liabilities at this moment in time is really important. The banks are offering 3-month holidays for your mortgage payments. That goes on to the end of the term of your mortgage in most cases, and there may be penalties, and fees for you to have that payment holiday. But if you can do something like that, that could really help your financial situation. Yes, there's some pain at the end of the day as your mortgage term is extended to allow for that, and there may be these fees. but to actually have some short-term break from that big financial liability right now is really useful for a lot of people. The same can be said for any loans or credit card. I would be speaking to those lenders, if you haven't already done so right now, see if they can give you any payment holiday or reduce any fees on any late payments, anything like that. If you're in rental, obviously you should have talked to your landlord right now about whether there's any opportunity for you to have a reduced rental. It's worth pointing out to landlords that if they can't give you that reduced rental, you may have to move to somewhere cheaper. And for a landlord, finding tenants in this kind of market is really, really hard. So some will be willing to reduce that rent to keep a good tenant in place and not have to have an empty property for a while. If you're in shared ownership, obviously you need to talk to your mortgage lender and to your housing association. We've had members who've done that and managed to get a payment holiday on their mortgage and also a rent reduction on their shared ownership, which has greatly helped their financial situation at this moment in time. You should also be looking to things like your utilities and phone bill providers as well. See if there's anything they can do for you at this time, because again, those are quite big monthly outgoings for most households. As Martin Lewis would also be saying to you, it's not a bad time to look at switching providers, either for credit cards or your utilities, because it can save you hundreds of pounds a year, which we all need in our back pocket at the best of times, and we certainly need right now at the worst of times financially. The other thing to bear in mind and contact your particular bank, or again, think about switching, is overdrafts. I know that HSBC last week were putting emails around to their customers saying you can have your first £300 of your overdraft interest-free. The government is now putting pressure on the banks to pay something back from the bailouts they had several years ago in the banking crisis and help customers out by giving them up to £500 interest-free as an overdraft. You may never have used an overdraft in your life before, but for many people it is something they have to regularly use. At least you don't have to pay the interest fees on that at the moment. And if you do need to use it for the first time, it is quite a useful safety net for a lot of people to have until you can get some money coming back in again. Key websites, again, just as a reminder, businesssupport.gov.uk for access to information on all those loans, grants and things that the government is trying to do to help small business. Moneyadviceservice.org.uk, we keep pointing people to that because they deal with debt advisory and benefits advisory on a daily basis, not just in this current crisis. This is their bread and butter, so they've got much better advice than we have. They have lots of means for you to talk to them. You can talk to them via WhatsApp, you can talk to them on a web chat, or you can give them a phone call. They're really helpful. And Citizen Advice Bureau as well, an ongoing source of support on any kind of issues to do with your business and personal life, legal issues, knowing your rights basically. And they're great on benefits advice as well and sources of support. So you can get to them through citizensadvice.org.uk. And again, you can chat to them via several different modes as well. And just going back to on the business side, limited companies, speak to your accountant at this moment in time. It looks like it's a bleak situation for you out there, that you're not getting support from anywhere. But I've heard tell of some accountants guiding their clients to ways that they could actually go back onto the PAYE of their company retrospectively, or other solutions, shall we call them creative, that could be employed in this situation to get you some financial assistance as well. One of the other big questions that we've had, and it's a controversial question, and my answer is going to be controversial to those who do not think any training should be happening at all, is around driver training during lockdown. We have to respect that there is going to be some driver training going on at this time, and that there are some individuals that do need to take a driving test or have a degree of training in vehicle because they're having to drive vehicles they've never had to drive before in their life, or they're also increasing their amount of occupational driving because of this crisis. So think of things like, paramedics. We need to recruit more of those and get them into vehicles. We need to maybe get some paramedics onto bikes when they've never ridden bikes before. There are health workers who are key workers who are suddenly having to they're not able to rely on public transport anymore, or they need to go amongst multiple sites to do their job, whereas before they went to a fixed location and used public transport. They're suddenly becoming a very frequent occupational driver. So there is some level of need to do that for key workers. And I know people don't like the fact that in any way we should be seen to encourage any form of driver or rider training, but there is that essential need at this moment in time to have some in-vehicle stuff done. If we think about it pragmatically, clearly we don't want in-vehicle driver training done in one sense for a public health reason, in that it doesn't allow for social distancing. But in another sense, if we just start putting people in vehicles and on the roads occupational drivers that they're not used to being in and the context they're not used to operating in, we could create another public health risk, which is road traffic accidents, because occupational driving, clearly one of the most significant risk categories in terms of RTCs. So that's what the tricky balance is here, is not giving a carte blanche for any ADI to suddenly start going out and doing their normal pupils and trying to pass them off as key workers, but at the same time not saying that absolutely no training can go on whatsoever, because we are going to have some level of training going on. So what happens at the moment is, if you are a critical worker, who is deemed a critical worker in the sense of needing to drive, the DVSA has opened up both theory test slots and practical test slots to accommodate those people. And there is a workforce of volunteer examiners who are willing to be at the front line and expose themselves to risk, arguably, to do that. Now, as much safe protocols are being put in place to help protect the pupil, the candidate, the examiner, and also the wider public to stop the transmission of the disease as well. And that includes the examiner and the candidate having to wear a measure of protective clothing. Things like, the interaction is limited between the examiner and the actual candidate as well. So there's lots of safe protocols in place that will allow for this process to happen where it absolutely needs to happen as well. So it may be that you do have a key worker and they want to do a driving test at the moment, but it may be that when they apply for the test slot, they're not deemed somebody who is essential to have that slot at this moment in time. The example I would give is somebody might work in a supermarket doing fulfillment or stacking shelves, but are they a key worker that essentially needs to drive to work? Really, the supermarket worker in that sense essentially needs to drive and have a driving test this time is the delivery driver who's going to start going out on the road rather than the person stacking the shelves. So it's these tricky balances of assessing who, what and when, and the resources that are actually available to do that. In that same vein, because we realise that some people are doing training out there, whether they've been asked to do that by a large supermarket chain or through an agency, something like that, or just a pupil approaching them, we can't just allow an unfettered amount of training going on. It's obviously got to be very, very strictly controlled in some way. So we are going to be setting up a register. We've had a discussion with Department for Transport and DVSA already about us doing this and providing this service at this time, because we can be a little bit more agile and have a few more resources available to do that than they do, because they're dealing with so many issues around driving at this moment in time. So that register will take the form of a verification process that a driver or rider trainer has to go through to prove they are actually working with key workers. Then they will have to take an online course, which is all about the safe working protocols, safe training protocols, and making sure that they are aware of those and what to do and what not to do. There will then be a short theory test at the end of that to make sure that that learning has been embedded, that people are going to take that learning out into what they do. And then those individuals who are successful in passing that theory test will be, and proving that they are actually doing key worker training, will be admitted to a register whereby we will create a certificate with a unique identification number on it that you can display in your vehicle. So should you get any challenges from the police or from members of the public about, or other ADIs about whether what you're doing is essential work at this moment in time, you can have that checked with our register and we'll be able to verify whether that person is essentially doing that critical work at this moment in time. The problem is, if we don't set up some kind of register like this and do it in a proper way, and I know it sounds onerous, but we have to do it in some kind of controlled way, we've got the situation where people are making homemade signs in a way that's intended to be helpful and sharing them with other ADIs, but you've got no way of knowing whether the ADI that is using that sign is in any way doing valid and essential driver training at this time. They might just be taking out their normal 17-year-old pupil who has no critical reason to drive at this moment in time as well. So that's why we're putting in this process and encouraging people to come via this register. And as I said, we're at the stage where we're just testing that at the moment. We should go live with it next week, and hopefully we'll have the support, and it's been indicated we will, from government and also from the regional constabularies as well. So you should have less challenge out there on the road and be able to verify yourselves in some way. So those are some of the things that we're doing, as well as helping our members in an individual sense at this moment in time. We're also lobbying, by the way, rider trainers. We are lobbying on the point of CBTs being allowed. DVSA are looking at how CBTs can happen safely, because there are a lot of key workers who are wanting or being directed to go onto powered wheel vehicles rather than in cars at the moment, because it's a bit more flexible and pragmatic to use bikes and stuff to get people to where they need to be, rather than having them rely on public transport as well. And some free stuff that we're doing at the moment to help you guys. We know that you're not just sat there twiddling your thumbs, but there is an element to which you're spending more, you've got more time at a desk or in your living room at the moment than you have behind the wheel. So we've made a lot of our courses in the DIA Academy free. So there's been quite a lot of our courses that you can access there now and do from home online. We're also doing webinars. We've done one today about engaging with your pupils. Harry and Olivia, something there about keeping your pupils up to date, keeping them in touch with you. So when we go back to normal again, you can get them back into some refresher training and then get them to test as soon as you can. And also we're going to do one next week on risk management, because obviously what's hit us right now is a massive risk that some would argue we can never plan for. But actually, if we think about risk management in a wider sense, and we think about our business suddenly facing a massive challenge, or our licensing facing a real challenge, or losing a load of pupils because of some reputational issue overnight, these are things that we can, if we recognise, plan for how we'll deal with better than we have perhaps been able to do with this particular crisis right now. So join us for that one. I think it's quite an important one, not just now, but in our general professional lives as well. I hope these videos are being useful for you guys. I hope the help desk is being a source of support for you. Any issues that you have, any other queries, any ideas you have for any other videos we can do, any other learning we can open up to you, we're all ears. Please let us know on any of the emails from the website or we've given in this video today. And in the meantime, all we've got to say is, as usual, keep well out there, keep safe, and I hope to speak to you all soon. Take care, guys.